He spoke back, when a priest reached Yu Menglong in Israel, the warning for 2026. They said Jerusalem was quiet that night, but silence in the holy city is never empty. It breathes. It listens. And on that windless evening, when the lamps along the Via Dolorosa flickered, as if remembering old griefs, a voice that was never supposed to answer spoke back. Yu Menglong had not come to Israel for headlines. He came under a different name, moving through airport security with a passport that felt heavier than it should, as if it carried more than ink and paper. His reason was simple on the surface: reflection, retreat, disappearance from the noise of the world. But beneath that calm explanation lived something far more dangerous, a question that would not stop asking him back. What happens when you run long enough, and something finally catches up? The man who wouldn't pray. You stood at the edge of the old city before dawn, the sky bruised purple and gold. He had watched prayers before, thousands of them, in studios, on stages, in scripts written by other people. But this was different. This was not performance. This was need. He did not kneel. He did not bow. He simply stood there, hands in his coat pockets, jaw tight, eyes scanning ancient stones that had survived empires, wars, and prophecies. Stones that remembered voices long gone. That was when the priest found him. Father Elian was not what you expected. No dramatic robes. No thunderous presence. Just a man in worn sandals, a scarf wrapped loosely around his neck, eyes sharp with a calm that felt unsettling, like someone who had already seen the ending. "You're late," the priest said softly. You turned. "I'm not here for confession." Father Elian smiled faintly. "That's what everyone says when they are." You laughed once, sharp and humorless. "You've got the wrong man." "No," the priest replied. "I have the man who keeps waking up at 3:17 a.m. You froze. The city breathed in. When the voice answered. They walked without direction, the priest speaking as if guided by something neither of them could see. Past stones polished smooth by centuries of hands. Past doorways older than memory. You said nothing, but every step felt like walking deeper into himself. "You asked a question," Father Elian said at last. "Not with your mouth. With your fear." You stopped. "I didn't ask anyone anything." The priest turned to him then, eyes suddenly fierce. "You asked if silence would save you." That was when it happened. A sound, not loud, not soft, precise. Like a sentence spoken directly into the bones. The air thickened. The lamps flickered. Somewhere, a bell rang though no hand had touched it. You staggered back. "Did you hear that?" he whispered. Father Elian nodded. It answered. Yu's breath came fast. "That's impossible." "So was your life 5 years ago," the priest replied. The voice did not repeat itself. It didn't need to. Its meaning pressed into Yu's chest like a seal. 2026 is not waiting. It is coming for you. The warning no one wanted. They sat in a courtyard where olive trees twisted toward the sky like hands that refused to let go. Father Elian drew a small notebook from his pocket, old, frayed, filled with names crossed out in different inks. "People think warnings come as punishments," the priest said. "They don't. They come as choices." You stared at the pages. "Why me?" The priest's answer was immediate. "Because you listened." You laughed bitterly. "I've spent my life pretending not to." Father Elian leaned closer. "Then pretend harder. Or stop pretending altogether. But understand this. 2026 is a year of exposure." The priest spoke of doors closing quietly, of mirrors that would no longer lie, of moments when one sentence, one refusal, one act of courage would outweigh years of silence. "You will be offered safety," Father Elian said. "It will look like comfort. It will sound like advice. And it will cost you everything." You shook his head. "This is madness." "Yes," the priest said gently. "Truth usually is." He spoke back. The second time the voice came, it was you who answered. It wasn't prayer. It wasn't rebellion. It was something raw and dangerous, honesty. "I'm tired," you said aloud, his voice breaking against the stones. "If this is a warning, Then say it clearly. The wind rose. Leaves trembled. And the words came, not from the sky, not from the priest, but from somewhere uncomfortably close. Do not trade your name for peace. Do not mistake silence for survival. When the moment comes, speak, before speaking is taken from you. Yu fell to his knees. Father Elian did not help him up. He only watched, as if this collapse was long overdue. The price of speaking. By sunrise, the priest was gone. No farewell. No instructions. Only the notebook left behind on the stone bench. You opened it to the last page. One line. Written recently. Those who speak in time are remembered. Those who don't are rewritten. You left Jerusalem that morning changed, in ways no mirror could capture. At the airport, he almost expected someone to stop him, to say you can't leave with that. No one did. But the warning traveled with him. In dreams. In pauses between conversations. In the strange weight behind ordinary questions. What will you say when it matters? Who will you be when silence is no longer an option? 2026 on the horizon. They will say later that the signs were obvious. That the shifts began quietly, contracts reconsidered, loyalties tested, truths brushing too close to the surface. They will argue over dates and meanings, over whether the warning was real or imagined. But you will remember Israel. The way the stones listened. The way the voice answered. The way a priest looked at him, not as a celebrity, not as a sinner, not as a symbol, but as a man standing at the edge of a year that would demand everything. And when the moment finally comes, when silence offers safety and speech offers fire, Yu Menglong will remember the words that changed him in a city built on memory. Do not trade your name for peace. Because some warnings are not meant to scare you. The first sign came quietly. Too quietly. Yu Menglong noticed it on a rainy afternoon months after Israel, when the city outside his window blurred into streaks of gray and silver. His phone lay face down on the table, vibrating, not ringing. Just vibrating. As if unsure whether it was allowed to make noise. When he picked it up, the screen was blank. No notifications. No missed calls. Yet the vibration continued for exactly 3 seconds, then stopped. You exhaled slowly. Father Elian's voice returned like an echo trapped in his ribs. 2026 is a year of exposure. When the past refuses to stay buried. It began with people resurfacing. An assistant he hadn't spoken to in years suddenly emailed, asking to clarify old timelines. A journalist canceled an interview, then rebooked it with a different tone, less curiosity, more certainty. A friend asked a harmless question that felt anything but harmless. Have you ever thought about telling the whole truth? You stared at the message long after the screen dimmed. That night, he dreamed of Jerusalem again. But this time, the stones weren't silent. They whispered. The man without a shadow. The second sign came as a man. You noticed him in 3 different places in 1 week. Once outside a cafe. Once reflected briefly in a glass door. Once standing across the street, face half hidden, watching not with menace, but expectation. No phone. No camera. No attempt to hide. On the 4th encounter, you confronted him. Do I know you? You asked. The man smiled, slow and careful. Not yet. Then why are you following me? I'm not, the man replied calmly. I'm waiting. For what? For you to decide who speaks first. Yu's pulse thundered in his ears. Who sent you? The man stepped back into the crowd, his voice drifting behind him like smoke. 2026 doesn't need messengers anymore. And just like that, he was gone. This time, you didn't sleep. When silence becomes a trap. The pressure built not as chaos, but as order. Meetings became polite. Too polite. Conversations ended just before they reached anything real. Doors remained open, but somehow led nowhere. Silence wrapped itself around you like a tailored suit. Comfortable, expensive, suffocating. He remembered the voice in Israel. Do not mistake silence for survival. One evening, you opened the priest's notebook again. He hadn't touched it in weeks. Between pages he didn't remember reading before, he found something new, words that hadn't been there. Or maybe he just hadn't been ready to see them. There comes a moment when silence stops protecting you and starts protecting the lie. You close the book. His hands were shaking. The scene that changed everything. It happened during a private gathering, dim lights, soft music, laughter carefully measured. The kind of room where secrets feel safe because everyone pretends not to see them. Someone raised a glass. To the future, they said. You stood. The room stilled. He felt it then, the exact moment Father Elian had warned him about. The fork in the air. The invisible line between comfort and consequence. If he stayed quiet, nothing would happen. If he spoke, every eye was on him now. Yu's voice sounded unfamiliar when he finally used it.
Steady. Clear.
Unapologetic. There are things I won't carry into 2026. A ripple moved through the room. Someone laughed nervously. What does that mean? You met their gaze. It means silence isn't neutral anymore. The music stopped. No one clapped. No one interrupted. And somewhere, deep, unmistakable, the voice returned. Not loud. Satisfied. The aftershock. The fallout was immediate. Calls unanswered. Invitations withdrawn. Stories reshaped before they were even told. You watched as versions of him began circulating, carefully edited, softly distorted. But something unexpected happened too. Messages arrived quietly, privately. I heard what you said. Thank you for not pretending. I thought I was alone.
You understood then.
The warning was never just for him. Countdown. As the calendar edged closer to 2026, the world felt tense, like a breath held too long. News cycles sharpened. People chose sides without realizing they were choosing them. Truth became expensive. You returned to Jerusalem alone. At the same courtyard where olive trees twisted toward the sky, he found Father Elian waiting, exactly as before. You spoke, the priest said. I did. And it cost you? Everything I was pretending to be. The priest nodded.
Good.
2026 doesn't need masks. You looked up at the ancient stones. Is it over? Father Elian smiled sadly.
No.
It's begun. The wind rose. The city listened. And this time, you didn't wait for the voice to speak first.